What happened to make you say I'm never coming to this restaurant again? They said no when I asked for a glass of water, please. Went to a restaurant on my birthday. They found out and surprised me with a huge piece of cake. Then they added the cake to the receipt. Happy birthday, here's your, not, free cake. I was a few bites into eating my salad, and there was one particularly interesting shiny piece of lettuce. I stab it with my fork and pull it out. This was no piece of lettuce. This was a wing and body of a huge dead grasshopper in the middle of my salad. I flung my fork across the room in panic. I will never return. Went to a local Mexican restaurant, ordered our food, sat there for dang near 2 hours and it never came. Asked the waitress twice where our food was, and she apologized and said it was coming. It never came, so we got up and went to leave. 3 employees come up to us and say they are going to call the cops on us for dine and dashing. I told those dumb fricks we never even got our food and walked past them. Haven't been back since, and it's been roughly 8-9 years. Told the guy, no shrimp. I turn into an itchy flaming hot Cheeto as I'm eating. Waiter tells me the cook doesn't do alterations. Could have said something to me before, dumbass. If you don't like shrimp, don't eat there. People seriously underestimate the importance of actually listening to their customers and making alterations to dishes, because that's a great way to end up in the hospital. The nozzle fell off the soda fountain and bug parts fell out into my cup. Roaches and other bugs in the soda fountain are a common problem if you don't clean it properly. I told a worker and they just screwed the nozzle back on when they thought I wasn't looking. Who knows what else they weren't cleaning. Was eating at a Chinese restaurant where you order rice by the bowl. From the angle I was sitting, I saw the waiters taking half uneaten bowls of rice and dumping them back into the rice cooker. Had the police called on us for not paying for a meal we never received. There was a small fly, a fruit fly I think, in my fried egg. It was all fried and crispy. I wasn't even that bothered. I'm not a confrontational person. I didn't even want a whole new meal. I just wanted a new egg. The waitress came back from the kitchen and said that the chef was insisting it was a bit of herb that he uses in his cooking. You could see the legs and wings. They were so insistent that I could see it wasn't worth arguing. They were a new business as well, so you would have thought they would want to establish a customer base. Gaslight Bar and Grill. My wife had an allergic reaction, clearly mentioning she was allergic to eggs. They said that creamy substance was cream cheese, but it was mayo. 15 minutes later, she was intubated in the emergency room. Nope, never going there again. Anyway, the restaurant closed last year. The little brownie mix package was baked into the goddamn brownie. They lost a lawsuit over stealing servers' tips. Best pancake stuffed French toast breakfast skillets of my life, but I couldn't do it after that. We went to the Old Country buffet a long time ago, and my dad got a hot dog that turned out to be moldy. We haven't gone back. I worked at this place for one day. It was a deli type place. I had 5 years kitchen experience and needed the work in a small town. Within 5 minutes I was questioning their sanitary disposition, with unregulated temperatures, improper disposal methods and general disregard for cleanliness. After a half hour I told myself I needed the money, could look past it, and do my best to make improvements over time. Then came the French fry that broke the camel's back. Their fryer. They dumped a basket of fries in it, but when it came out, it had a brown film, or sludge over the delicious crispy fried potato product. I asked if they were going to serve that to the customer. They said yes. It's the gravy. After further questioning, I found out they inherited the property and the oil hasn't been changed in 7 years. After 45 minutes of working there, I quit and called the health inspector. I never looked back. Ha 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 ha, the gravy, Jesus Christ. Butter chicken had no chicken. Called the manager. Dude seemed like this was a regular thing. Told them we're not paying. They didn't even give a frick and said okay. I used to go to a local Mexican restaurant so much that I knew the workers by name and they knew me by name. I went with my friend and she was being super flirty and made a deal with the waiter that she would go on a date for a free drink. When we left she said she wasn't going on that date. I can never return to that restaurant. There's only one thing you can do. Make up for the dishonor by going on a date with the waiter yourself. Local breakfast place in my hometown that I went to as a kid. Ordered a Belgian waffle, and it comes out dark brown and crunchy. I complained that it was burned, and they sent it back to make a new one. About 5 minutes later, they returned with a new waffle, except it wasn't new. It had bite marks, right where I had bitten it, and hey, the section I bit out of had butter on it. They walked in back and turned the waffle over, thinking no one would notice. Super hipster pancake place in Portland. Long waits for brunch. Was dragged there on a date. 2-hour wait for freaking pancakes. And when we finally got in, after getting a single mimosa, the power goes down. Their response? Make everyone pay for what they had ordered, not even got, and give jump the line tickets to people still in line. But nothing but a hearty frick you to the diners. Never again. During college, I caught the Chinese food restaurant's employees sneezing in the food. They saw me see it from far away and walked into the back. Told everyone I knew. Went to a local Mexican place and got a burrito. Took a bite in and found glass. Found a bunch of eating chicken wing bones in my appetizer basket. They just dropped a new piece of paper over them and filled it up with onion rings. Pointed it out to the manager. Declined to get my app for free and walked out. They bring out food quickly after I order it. It's lukewarm. I send it back. I hear the microwave ding. They bring it out. Still cold in the center. They put their finger in the center to verify. They bring it back. Ding. May I have a to-go box? It was a restaurant in Waikiki. The last night of our vacation. The place was crawling with bedbugs. We didn't know they were bedbugs at the time. Didn't actually figure that out until we were back home and the telltale bites developed. We had to call the hotel. Tell them we may have introduced bedbugs to the room. They freaked out, but hey, it was their employee who'd recommended the place. We had to empty out the freezer to deep freeze everything we couldn't boil or leave roasting in a black garbage bag on a sunny patio for weeks. We had to put special covers on our mattresses and vacuum and scrub every surface every day. Our house wasn't infested, but it was over a month before we could relax. When I called the restaurant, the manager said, "Oh yeah, we have a terrible bedbug infestation. We have an exterminator come once a month. But every place in Waikiki has bedbugs. Everybody knows that. You should read the local newspaper." When we wrote about it on TripAdvisor, the same manager called us to ask us to remove the review. In return, we'd get dinner on the house if we ever returned. Not only am I not ever going back to that restaurant, I'm not ever going back to Oahu. Frick you, Lulu's. Kenosha Steakhouse, Breckenridge Company. Was living and working over at Keystone for my first of 4+ years in Summit County. Had some friends visiting me from out of state. Went to Breck for a night of shenaniganry. Went to this saloon and bar place on Main Street in Breck called Kenosha Steakhouse. Waitress didn't show up for 15 minutes. Then it took another 25 minutes for the 3 beers we ordered to come in. We had ordered food at the same time, and it came 20 minutes later, so 45 minutes after ordering. From sitting down to having food on our table, it was 1 hour. The food was bland, room temperature barely warm. The waitress never showed up again to offer us a refill. We had to flag another server to get our check. They then refused to split a 3-top check, despite never stating as much before or showing that anywhere. On the way out, I went to complain to a manager. Some staff member faked being management and another staffer said it won't make any difference to me when I pointed out that I worked in hospitality in county and this experience was beyond unacceptable. The snide comment from the waiter about it not making any difference struck a deep nerve. I checked in thousands of guests from that point on until I stopped working in hospitality. Every one of those guests I explicitly told not to go to that restaurant. On top of that, I moved to Breck and lived there for 2 years. I would approach people on the street looking at the outdoor menu outside of Kenosha and dissuade them away. I also was working in a sales position intermittently during this time and told the same story to all guests I interacted with. But it didn't make any difference, right? This guy knows how to grudge. Mexican restaurant I had never been to before. Me and 2 friends go in, wait for a while by the door while being stared at by staff. Eventually we sat ourselves. A boy no older than 10 years old greeted us after a minute and I asked for a water. He said they didn't have water. They didn't have water. They didn't have water. They didn't have water. Clearly the problem was you should have asked for agua. It's a Mexican restaurant after all. A family-owned restaurant didn't honor a 3-week in advance reservation for Valentine's Day, but instead overbooked and didn't seat us until an hour later, then proceeded to give us silverware and ask us for drinks 20 minutes after that. We just said not to bother and left. A cockroach ran out of the basket of tortilla chips and the waitress' response was, "Oh, that happens sometimes." I was getting ice cream at my local Baskin-Robbins. I asked for soft serve with sprinkles on it. The guy at the counter told me he couldn't put sprinkles on the soft serve. This made no sense to me, so I asked him to do it anyway. He still refused, so I asked to see the manager. The manager told me it was physically impossible to put sprinkles on soft serve ice cream. I left and never came back. Should have asked for the sprinkles on the side and then dumped them on the ice cream in front of them. We were completely ignored. It was a small, family-owned Mexican restaurant that was extremely popular. We had been there many times. We were the only people sitting in one waitress section. We watched her as she stood there talking to the busboys and cooks in plain view of our table. We had to walk up to her to ask her to take our order and go up again to ask for another margarita. We then had to go up and ask for the check. It was the only time I didn't leave a tip. I have no idea what we did to her. The other waitress in a different section was actually doing her job and she had a full section. The only thing I can think of is it was the end of her shift and she didn't care. Oh no, don't just not leave a tip. Then they just think you don't believe in tipping. You have to leave the smallest possible form of currency your country has to get the message through. I still remember clearly when I went to a restaurant called Bamboo House. I was just enjoying my pho when I felt something hard on my tongue. I pulled it out of my mouth and it was a frickin' bitten off toenail. Never fricked with that place again. They literally asked if I wanted another bowl. You think I want another bowl after that? Hasn't happened yet. I have very low standards. I was at a macaroni grill. Felt something on my leg. Then swatted at my jeans. Went to the bathroom and found nothing, but returned and saw there was a crushed roach under the table. Basically I crushed it against my jeans and it had fallen out of the jeans afterwards. Told the waitress who just offered a free dessert. Really wasn't angry, we just joked about it, but afterwards I avoided that location. It was our favorite bar. We used to live down the road from it. We had our first date there and knew every employee, even the cooks in the back. We moved about 25 minutes away. We got engaged and needed to save money. We went for the first time in months. The menu changed drastically. The management changed. Almost none of the servers recognized us, as most staff had left. We tried to give it a go, but the food was awful. They'd even changed cooks. We realized what we had was gone. You killed the bar. Steak and Shake south of Houston. Went in and the staff didn't really seem to give a crap, but whatever. Ordered a Royale and it was delicious. Until I noticed the mold on the bottom of the bun. Not just a little, either. I'm talking multicolored nasty ass moldy bun. On a burger I had eaten like 1/3 of. I showed it to the waiter who seemed stoned, and he just said, "Oh, I'm sorry, man. Do you want something else?" I asked for the manager who didn't charge us and gave us a coupon for a free meal later we never used. I vomited in the parking lot before we left. There was hair baked into my quesadilla. Like, enough I was concerned for the health of the chef. I booked a table for 7 people at an Indian restaurant. I had this confirmed by email and the manager even called me a few hours before to remind me and let me know they were looking forward to hosting us. I arrive at the restaurant and the manager is nowhere to be seen. The staff tell me there is no booking and even suggest I've booked over the road. I show them my phone log and they say it's definitely not their phone number. They begin trying to usher us towards the exit. I start thinking I messed up big time and freak out I've screwed up organizing a get together for my best friend who is moving away. I decide to call the number that had phoned me earlier. Then the restaurant telephone right next to us starts to ring. The guy who said I had no booking picks up. He notices it's me but decides to pretend he thinks I am another customer calling in. It feels like a scene from Fawlty Towers. I am on the phone to him and standing right next to him. "Hello, I am standing beside you. I have a booking. I've got email confirmation and you also called me today. You just pretended this wasn't your number and now you've answered it right in front of me. I am pretty sure I am not booked over the road, but I wish I was. We got home and realized neither of us had paid the bill. When I was 3, my parents and I were at a Pizza Hut, and when the waiter brought out drinks, he spilled them all over me. All 3 of us got pop, so I was sticky. This in itself wasn't too bad, but when my parents got the check, they realized that they got charged for 2 sets of drinks, including the ones that were spilled on me. When my dad asked the waiter about this, he said it was only fair. This is the only time I've ever seen my dad not tip. Mayo WTF. I can imagine the waiter's reasoning behind that. Like, well, you technically still got them. You just didn't drink them. I have a deathly tree nuts allergy. I ordered a plate of fish tacos, and it came with a side salad. Upon receiving the dish, I noticed that the salad was covered in candied pecans. This hadn't been mentioned anywhere on the menu, so I politely informed the waiter that I couldn't eat the salad, specified it was due to a severe allergy, and requested a replacement. They insisted on taking everything back to the kitchen, even though the salad and the tacos hadn't touched, and of course I thanked them and let them take it. Fast forward 15 minutes, everyone else is done eating, and they finally bring my food back. I am famished, so I dig in. Imagine my surprise when I find no fewer than 3 pecans at the bottom of my salad bowl after having consumed maybe a quarter of the salad, and begin to experience anaphylaxis. To this day I don't know if it was an assassination attempt, if the sous chef didn't believe I was really allergic so he just scraped the nuts off the top and called it good, or if it was just a really sloppy kitchen, but you better believe I'll never go back. There's a little cafe in my town that I would frequent about twice a month. I went there a couple months ago and asked to place a to-go order. The waitress told me to wait to see if they could still take orders. This was at like 6:30 PM, so no reason why they wouldn't be taking orders. She's gone for like 15 minutes, comes back and says that they aren't taking any more orders for the night. As she's saying this, a couple comes in and sits down. She proceeds to give them a menu and asks to take their order. I just said, you have to be freaking kidding me. I'm never coming here again, and stormed out. I'd be talking to a manager or the owner if that happened. That's probably the waitress pulling that crap. Time for her to move on. I went to Ruby Tuesdays once and there was a partially frozen entire stick of butter on my steak. Chinese restaurant. They stored their to-go containers in the restaurant bathroom. Chinese restaurant I used to love. I went to pick up takeout one day and the whole restaurant was super humid and smelled strongly like a sour towel. I figured they had some roof leak issue or something. I saw they closed for a couple weeks, so I thought they were fixing the issue. I waited another couple months before giving it another shot. It still smelled, but worse. They had done no remodeling or anything. It was time to find a new Chinese place. One of my relatives has a prosthetic leg, and it's uncomfortable for him to stand for a long time, so he asked for a chair to sit in while waiting for a table. 10 minutes later, a waitress came over and said she needed the chair back. He explained his situation, but she snapped, "Well, I'm sorry, I need it. You'll have to get up." He shouted, "Frick this place," and stormed out. You have been visited by the Pope Doggo. Comment 4 times and he will bless you with lots of good luck. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.